From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Great to have you with us tonight. Welcome to the Library of Congress. Welcome to the kickoff of La Voz Latina, which is a series long in the making. I guess it was about a year ago, Alicia and Gilda. We were talking with the Kennedy Center and managed this wonderful collaboration between the Library of Congress and the Kennedy Center. There will be 2 more programs tomorrow night. Saturday all day long. And I encourage you to go. The first program at 11 o'clock will be with Natasha Trethewey, the U.S. Poet Laureate, and Jorge Ignacio Cortinas, who is a wonderful playwright, Cuban playwright. And they will present a program, a really wonderful program on the relationship and friendship between 2 great poets, Nicolas Guillen of Cuba and Langston Hughes of the United States, who were great friends and wonderful poets and translated one another. The other program is at 2 o'clock, and that will be a cavalcade of great Latin American and Latino American writers. You can see in your program who they are. It's a magnificent lineup of people, so I would encourage you to come on Saturday, 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And between those programs, Rolando Estévez, who you see here tonight, the great, wonderful master bookmaker that we're very lucky to have in the Library of Congress tonight, will be presenting more of his books that are on their way right now from Havana, large-scale material that he has brought as well. So the display, if you've seen it, it's absolutely marvelous, breathtaking work that he has produced over the years. And the display at the Kennedy Center will be an additional bonus, so I would encourage you to go to that. We are very, very indebted to the extraordinary director of the international programming at the Kennedy Center, Alicia Adams, and her fantastic dynamo colleague, Gilda Almeida. We're very proud of this collaboration between the library and the Kennedy Center, and I think it may be unprecedented, a first collaboration of this sort of scholarly material. We think so. And so we hope that it will be the first of many other collaborations in the future. So I want to bring on Alicia to say a few words to you. Alicia Adams, as I say, is the director of the international programming at the Kennedy Center. It is through her that Washington audiences have been treated to artists from really all around the world. From China to Scandinavia to Africa to all the Spanish and Portuguese-speaking nations, the Middle East, India, and many other fascinating places whose art we might not know, but for her efforts and those of her colleagues like Gilda and the very efficient Ginger Rogers, thank you, Ginger. If you were to keep track of Alicia's productions, you could virtually tour the world and see artists and art forms that you hadn't imagined existed from the comforts of your seat at the Kennedy Center. So I'd like to ask Alicia to come up and say a few words, if you would. Alicia Adams.
Thank you so much, Marie. That's quite an introduction. I don't know if I can live up to that right now, but anyway. I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight to tonight's literary collaboration between the Kennedy Center and the Library of Congress, La Voz Latina. I do curate the international festivals for the Kennedy Center, and we just finished a major festival in Cuba called Artes de Cuba, From the Island to the World. Literature has always been important to me for all of the festivals, and I'm so pleased that tonight we began an addition to the Cuba Festival with writers from Cuba, but also that we will have other Latino voices. So From the Island to the World comes alive for me and for us tonight. I'm thrilled that we're looking at another aspect of the book, the art of the book, with the work of Rolando Estevez. These handmade books are so beautiful, and if you haven't had a look at the books that are in the outer room, please do so. The only time I've ever seen such beautiful handmade books is at the Booker Prize in London that I go to every year, every other year, and they always present to the five finalists a handmade book by an artist. So they're always so beautiful. I've just never seen so many beautiful books together. There are only 5 there. But I think that these book covers, the books themselves, give us another entry into the story that will be told inside. It invites us in a very different way than a book that's just printed by the printer. And that's something that I find very exciting. It's another aspect of the art that I think we should pay attention to. I'm so pleased that Ruth Behar and Maria Rana thought to have this as part of this collaboration and this literary event tonight. I have to say that this is the first time that we've collaborated with the Library of Congress, the Kennedy Center, but this is probably the 50th time that I've collaborated with Marie. I have followed her wherever she went. I met her probably over 20 years ago, and she's a writer extraordinaire. When she was the book editor of The Post, she did a fantastic job. And here at the Library of Congress with the National Book Fair, it's extraordinary that we see thousands and thousands of people there. No matter what the title of the festival is, if I can find a way to involve Marie in it, I will, if only for advice. But many of them have included Latino artists or African artists, who involved her sister, I believe. So it's been a great partnership, and I love her. She's a dear friend, and I'm so glad that she's been able to put together this series over the next few days. So thank you again for coming.
Oh my goodness, I am glowing. Thank you very much. Such a special friend, absolutely. Well, we have a very exciting program for you in store this evening. The participants, as you can see, have come from far and near to tell you about a singular, really truly singular art form that fuses a love of books with a love for art. We're very, very honored, deeply honored, profoundly honored to present Rolando Estévez, a poet, writer, producer, and master bookmaker whose handiwork the Library of Congress has been collecting in its rare book division for many, many years. Here to tell you about that collection, the Vigía collection, is my colleague, Catalina Gomez, who's sitting on the extreme far end, without whom this program and the 2 other programs that will take place at the Kennedy Center would not have been possible. Thank you, Catalina. And Ruth will tell you more about Rolando and Catalina, but let me tell you a little bit about Ruth. Ruth, our moderator, sitting in the middle this evening, is a Cuban-American anthropologist and writer, a professor of cultural anthropology at the University of Michigan. Her work straddles the worlds of the academy and popular books. She's written poetry, memoir, literary fiction, books for children. She was born in Havana and came to live in the United States when she was 5 years old. Her family roots through her grandparents, however, go back to Turkey, Poland, and Russia. She learned very early on in her life that the world was a very large place. She credits her bookishness to the fact that when she was 9, going on 10, she spent an entire year in a body cast. At which point, Ruth, I guess you learned How to Bring a Large World into a Very Small Place. In love with books, never without one in her hand, she studied Spanish literature at Wesleyan. She earned her doctor in anthropology from Princeton. Her first book was based on her dissertation about a northern village in Spain. Her second book, Translated Woman, was based on 10 years of field work in a rural town in Mexico. Her third, The Vulnerable Observer, Anthropology That Breaks Your Heart, a great title, examines the role of the personal in her scholarly discipline, cultural anthropology. Jewish Cuba is the topic of her fourth, An Island Called Home, as well as her fifth, Traveling Heavy, a memoir in between journeys. Most recently, she's published a prize-winning book for young adults called Lucky Broken Girl, and I guess that's about the body cast, I would guess, and in fact it is. I've seen it. It's lovely. Congratulations. And just this week, she was named one of America's great immigrants by the Carnegie Foundation. According to the Carnegie citation, she is, quote, one of America's naturalized citizens who enrich the fabric of our culture and strengthen our democracy through their lives, their work, and their example. We couldn't agree more. Ladies and gentlemen, Ruth Behar.
I think we started. Should I go?
Oh, you can speak from
So
here.
I can talk from right here.
Because you have your microphone.
Because I have my microphone.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I was not expecting that introduction at all. Thank you so much. That was so beautiful, and I am so honored. Well, it's such a huge honor to be here today at the Library of Congress and also to have this collaboration with the Kennedy Center and to be in conversation with Catalina Gomez from the Library of Congress and my dear friend, Rolando Estévez. So it's really, really an honor to be here today to talk about A Cuban Love Affair, the art of the book. So before I begin, I'm going to just say a little bit more about Rolando Estévez. We've already covered some of his bio, but just to add a little bit more that's important. So Rolando Estévez, and in Cuba, we call him Estévez. Right, we don't call him Rolando. His sister calls him Rolly, but in Cuba he's just known as Estévez. A lot of artists in Cuba go by their last name. So if you hear me calling him Estévez, I'm not being disrespectful. That's the name that he uses. So Estévez was born in Matanzas in Cuba, and he is a poet. He is a visual artist. He works in multiple mediums, including drawing, painting, installation, performance. And what's very important to know is that he also does set design for the theater. And that really informs the way he constructs books in a very theatrical and dramatic way. He teaches freestyle design and theater design in Matanzas. And in Matanzas, he is a leading promoter and organizer of artistic events, of competitions, of exhibitions, and other alternative cultural activities. He really is a force in Matanzas. And in 1985, he and the poet Alfredo Saldívar founded Ediciones Vigía. And all of you, I think, had a chance to see some of the Ediciones Vigía books here. And it's very interesting to understand how they started out in 1985. Initially, their aim was to create a welcoming space for young poets from Matanzas, for local poets. And what they did at the very beginning was to create beautiful invitations to poetry readings. That was basically how they started. And these readings were always accompanied by a musical recital. So that was kind of the origin of this project. They didn't have paper. This was in the 80s. They didn't have paper to make the invitation. So they went to the local butcher shops in Matanzas, and they asked for the brown paper from the butcher shops. And that was how they started making these beautiful invitations on very simple brown paper. And as you can see, the brown craft paper is still used in Estévez's new books, which I'll talk about in a moment. So Ediciones Vigía, important to know that it was born in the city of Matanzas, which is 50 miles away from Havana, and it's a city known as the Athens of Cuba. because there's always been a lot of reverence for poetry and music in Matanzas, and it's where the beautiful dance form of the danzón was born in the city of Matanzas. And Matanzas has this historic plaza, la Plaza de la Vigía, and it was from that plaza, which translates roughly into the Watchtower Plaza. It was from that plaza that they could see the ships entering the Bay of Matanzas, and they could take action quickly if pirates were trying to come and take over the city. So this notion of being a vigía, of watching over things, was a definition that was very important to the co-founders of this amazing book project. And over time, Vigía evolved, it grew bigger, it grew into a publishing house that involved writers, designers, and volunteers who worked collaboratively to create these beautiful handmade books. And the way it worked when Estevez was with Ediciones Vigía is he would make a complete book. He would fabricar a complete book, he would bring it to Vigía, and then they would make 200 copies of the book, and that was the way they produced the books. And what's interesting is they gave attention to Cuban writers on the island, and you saw some of the books in the display, like Dulce Maria Loinás, Nancy Morejon, Fina Garcia Marrús, Miguel Barnet, all very important Cuban writers, and always honoring José Martí, the great independence leader and poet of Cuba. But there was also a commitment to give space to international authors, such as Borges or Garcia Lorca, as you saw in the exhibit, Boris Pasternak as well, while celebrating the work of great American writers, such as Emily Dickinson. Y voy a hablar un poquito del Dickinson. And so I think all of you got to see the Emily Dickinson book here in the display. And it's just a totally exquisite book from 1998. And I think it's just one of the most spectacular handmade books that I have seen. And Estevez read up on Emily Dickinson, her biography. He knew that she was very agoraphobic. And so he built a house for her, for this reclusive poet, and put the poems inside that house. At the time, Estevez had not yet visited Dickinson's house in Amherst, which is now a museum, but eventually he did get to go there. And he learned that the house that he had imagined in his dreams had turned out to be very much like the one she had inhabited in real life. And so the books that he designed for Ediciones Vigía are now collected all over the world. We have this wonderful collection here in the Library of Congress. There are also books in MoMA, there are books in the British Library, and I want to brag for a moment and say there are books in many university libraries, including the University of Michigan, and we have a very large collection of his books in our Special Collections division because the University of Michigan was the first American university that Estevez visited when I invited him back in the late 90s. And so we began to celebrate and to conserve these books. So between 1985 and 2013, Estevez was the artistic director of Ediciones Vigía, and during that time he produced over 500 gorgeous handmade books. And it's a major contribution to Cuban art and letters. We had an interdisciplinary conference back in 2012 called Cultural Bricolage, organized by Professor Juana Maria Cordones Cook. And there was so much interest in this conference that we decided to produce an anthology about Estevez's work for Vigía and his work as a book artist. And I'm one of the co-editors of this book, which will be coming out next year. And it will be called, or tentatively called, Beautiful Books in the Age of Technology, Rolando Estévez and the Making of Vigía in Cuba. Today, Estevez will be sharing his new work, and this is taking him in very, very exciting directions. In 2013, he made the decision to leave Ediciones Vigía and form his own imprint. And we saw that there's a few of the new books here. His new imprint is called El Fortín. El Fortín means the little fort. And his plan was to be able to produce limited edition books as well as one-of-a-kind artist books, and just have more freedom to do his work as a book artist. And they've already gained very, very wide recognition. And what's so, me perdona si estoy hablando mucho.
Para nada, por favor, no.
And what's so amazing is that Estevez is now the first licensed independent bookmaker in Cuba, right? So he's able to produce these books as an independent bookmaker, and he will be spearheading the first ever artist book pavilion at the upcoming art biennale that will take place in April of 2019. And a new generation of Cuban book artists is now being born, and they are all looking to him for inspiration. So as you'll see today, his creative development as a bookmaker has really inspired him to keep pushing at the limits of how to make a book that can be called a work of art and also be a book at the same time. And as his bookmaking has developed, he's found new ways for words and images to speak to each other ever more exuberantly, becoming, I think, a modern version of illuminated medieval manuscripts. And I think in our era of virtual books, Estevez's work gives us all the possibility of experiencing that tactile sensuality of interacting with books in ways that restore to us the wonder of the text. So to end these remarks, I just want to say something about my friendship with Estevez. We met back in 1994, que nos conocimos en el 94. So 24 years ago, we met at the Havana Book Fair, and Estevez had stepped outside to smoke a cigarette and to take a break from working at the Ediciones Vigía stand at the Havana Book Fair. He was selling these postales that were essentially these beautiful hand-painted drawings that incorporated lines of poetry from Dulce María Loynaz. At the time, I didn't know who Dulce María Loynaz was. She then became a huge influence on my life, and he said to me, "Don't tell me you've never heard of Dulce María. And she's one of Cuba's most important poets." And I said that I hadn't heard of her. And I realized how much I had yet to learn from Rolando Estevez about Cuban literature, culture, and history. And we struck up a conversation back then in 1994. He was watching me intently, and I ended up telling him that I was this Cubana who was returning to the island, looking for my roots. I was speaking to him of my need to return, even though my parents didn't want me to travel to Cuba, and in fact, they've never been back. And he nodded very sympathetically. And then he said that I reminded him of his younger sister. She was an 8-year-old girl when she left Cuba with their parents in 1969. He had not seen her in all that time. He'd not been able to leave because he was 15 and considered of military age by Cuban law. So he knew in his own flesh how immigration could cut both ways, producing grief for those leaving as well as for those waving goodbye. And after our conversation, Estevez said that I should go inside and have a look at the Ediciones Vigía books. And I said to him, "But how will I find them?" And he said, "Oh, you'll find them. You won't be able to miss them." And he lit up another cigarette, and I went inside, and I walked through this dark hall, seeing just a lot of gloomy-looking books printed by the government presses. And I said, "Would I ever find Ediciones Vigía?" And then I saw this tall palm tree, and it was made of the brown butcher paper, very tall palm tree. The tree, of course, had been designed and built by Estevez. And he was right. It was impossible to miss these beautiful books. They were all fashioned from simple brown paper, were handmade, hand-colored, hand-printed, hand-bound. And I didn't know what to make of these creations. but I fell in love with them immediately. And so began my Cuban love affair with the art of the book, and especially with the art of Estevez's books. I'm so honored and so thrilled to be here. And with that, I don't know if we'll move to Catalina Gomez or move to our conversation with Rolando Estevez. Thank you so much.
I think I should be at the end.
You should be at the end?
Yeah,
Okay.
you guys are the stars.
So we'll start, we have several books that we want to show you and discuss with you, and I will be both interacting and translating as well from Spanish.
¿Quieres comentar alguno?
No, vamos a empezar, yo creo que ya yo he hablado demasiado. Sí.
Vamos a empezar. Bueno, quiero empezar mostrando, darle las gracias a Ruth y a la Biblioteca del Congreso, sobre todo por esta oportunidad y por cuánto me emociona ver esos libros de Vigía y de Fortín ahí en esta exposición.
So he wants to say thank you so much to all of us for being here, the two of us, and how incredibly moved he is to see the books here at the Library of Congress and so beautifully conserved.
Quiero decir primero que el Fortín es mi continuación como artista en el mundo del libro. Fundé Vigía junto a Alfredo Saldívar en el 85. Estuve 28 años y más en ese lugar.
So El Fortín is a continuation of the work that he began at Ediciones Vigía. He worked with Saldívar, the co-founder, for 28 years, and now is continuing the work with El Fortín.
El Fortín es mi propio proyecto. Ya en Cuba puede haber un proyecto privado de libros. Fui el primero, ya lo dijiste.
Sí, so El Fortín, again, is the first independent bookmaking project.
Y este Fortín me da la posibilidad de continuar mi trabajo como diseñador de libros, añadiendo ahora el trabajo de los libro arte, los ejemplares únicos.
So El Fortín allows him to keep doing books in a small series, while at the same time being able to make one-of-a-kind, unique artist books.
Quiero empezar mostrándole este libro, que es un póster de Alejo Galván, un poeta de la ciudad. Vamos a zafarlo aquí. Estos libros llevan una interacción.
These books require quite a lot of interaction. This is a book of poems, 3 poems by Alejo Galván, a poet from Matanzas, and it's called La Tarde, the Afternoon.
Es un nudito aquí, un momentico. Ya.
Ya está.
Este póster contiene 3 poemas de Alejo Galván, poemas dedicados a la ciudad de los puentes y los ríos. Aquí están las imágenes de la ciudad.
So these are 3 poems that are all about the city of Matanzas, and Matanzas is a city of 3 rivers and the ocean and many bridges, and so he captures that in the artwork.
En la cabeza de esta mujer, que es como la ciudad, el lighthouse, me encanta la palabra en inglés, el faro, que es el símbolo de Ediciones El Fortín.
So the lighthouse is the symbol of El Fortín, of his imprint, El Fortín, and he mentioned that there's a lighthouse coming out of the head of the woman, and he loves that word in English, so he tends to say lighthouse rather than faro, which is the word in Spanish.
Por la parte de atrás, las informaciones sobre la cantidad de ejemplares, sobre el poeta, en fin.
So he includes information about the poet, the number of copies that were made. So all of that information is always included in each book.
Pequeñas notas, pequeñas sorpresas que siempre tienen estos libros.
Notes and surprises, as he said. The books always contain surprises.
En este caso, una nota sobre el poeta, sobre el autor.
So there's a note there about the author.
Sí.
Entonces ese es un libro que es un libro como póster, tú
Como
decías.
póster,
Como
sí.
póster. So it's like a book poster, y la idea de poder también, o sea, tenerlo en la pared como arte,
Sí,
como obra de arte.
están hechos exactamente para eso, para poder leerlos, interactuar con ellos o tenerlo en una pared como se pone un cuadro, como se pone un cartel.
So the idea of being able to interact with the book, read it, but you can also hang it up and enjoy it as a work of art as well.
¿Seguimos?
Seguimos.
Eliseo.
Eliseo.
Este es un poeta que no vive en la ciudad de Matanzas. Este es un poeta que vive en una pequeña ciudad del sur de la provincia que se llama Jovellanos, un pueblo donde hay mucha cultura negra afrocubana, un asentamiento muy grande de esclavos hubo en ese lugar.
Déjame traducir.
Sí.
So this poet, Eliseo Abreu Hernandez, is from the province of Matanzas, from the town of Jovellanos, where there was and continues to be a very, very important Afro-Cuban presence, cultural and religious and spiritual presence, and that's where this poet is from.
Este hombre ganó el concurso de Igdor Alonso, que es un concurso de poesía que tiene ediciones de Fortín.
So he has a competition, a poetry competition each year at El Fortín, and this poet won, and therefore his book was published in El Fortín.
Es un libro también bilingüe, casi todos los libros de Fortín son o bilingües o trilingües, porque es una manera en que más personas pueden llegar a leer el libro.
So this book is bilingual, and he tries to have his El Fortín books be bilingual and sometimes even trilingual so that more people can have access to these texts.
La bolsa es como una pequeña mochila que se pudiera llevar aquí al hombro.
Probably doesn't need translation, but the idea that it's almost like a little knapsack and you can carry it with you.
Este es un poeta fuerte, enérgico, con un poema muy...
This is a very, very strong poet. Y este poeta está enfermo, ¿no?
Está enfermo de cáncer
He's
y toda su
suffering from-
poesía está llena de esa imploración que hace a la vida porque le sigue dando salud y es una poesía que también habla del dolor físico y del dolor espiritual.
So he is a poet who's suffering from cancer, so his poems have a lot to do with physical suffering, searching for healing. Those are themes in his work. Seguimos.
El tres.
La zafra.
La zafra. Este es un libro que me gusta especialmente. Es un libro, La zafra, de Agustín Acosta. Agustín Acosta fue poeta nacional en Cuba antes que Nicolás Guillén.
So this is a book by Agustín Acosta. This is a poet who lived outside of Cuba in Miami, but before he left Cuba, he was declared Cuba's national poet before Nicolás Guillén.
Pero hay algo que es bien interesante. Se fue de Cuba y perdió su condición de poeta nacional y se nombró a otro poeta nacional en Cuba, estando vivo Agustín, que fue Nicolás Guillén.
Right, so he was Cuba's national poet, but after he left Cuba, could no longer be Cuba's national poet, and that was when Nicolás Guillén was named.
En los oscuros tiempos de los 70 y las parametraciones, este fue un poeta prohibido en Cuba, un poeta que había abandonado el país.
So this is a poet that in the 70s, which was a very dark period in Cuban history, it was impossible to read this poet's work.
Escribió en la década del 30 su gran libro, La zafra, y esta palaqué contiene
This was one of his great books. La Zafra is the sugarcane harvest.
algunos de los poemas de ese libro de La zafra. Está realizada la cubierta en caña de azúcar prensada,
So the cover has pressed sugarcane,
fibras naturales,
natural fibers,
para dar toda la atmósfera del campo.
and these are a selection of poems from this book,
Y
La
aquí
Zafra,
están
Sugarcane Harvest.
los dibujos de la portada, de la portadilla, está muy lleno de dibujos.
So it has a lot of images, a lot of
Cada
drawings.
poema está precedido de un dibujo especialmente hecho para él.
So each poem is accompanied by an illustration.
Hasta llegar así al final del libro. Y otra cosa interesante es que esta bolsa está hecha con los sacos que se usan en Cuba para exportar, para comercializar el azúcar.
So he used for this book an actual bag that's used. These are the actual bags or sacks that are used in Cuba to transport sugar. So
Es una cosa que he tenido siempre presente en estos libros y también en los únicos, es que el material se tiene que convertir en un contenido del libro.
So this has always been very much the case in his books, that the container of the book has to be part of the book as well.
¿Sí?
Seguimos. Una flor bajo la bota.
Este es un pequeño libro mío, una pequeña plaquette, un libro con un poema llamado Una flor debajo de la bota.
So this is a plaquette, a small book with a poem that Estevez himself wrote, A Flower Beneath the Boot.
Es un poema en contra de la guerra, por supuesto,
It's an anti-war poem
que habla de las botas militares que aplastan los campos,
that talks about military boots that squash the fields and flower fields.
una sillita que es como la espera de cuándo van a pasar estos tiempos de guerra.
This is a chair indicating waiting when are these times of war going to pass and end.
Aquí hay una nota sobre el poeta. Aquí está.
A little note about the author of the poem, and there's the poem,
Poema en español
the poem in Spanish, y está en
y
inglés.
está en inglés. Y está por detrás
And then behind it is the English
el poema en inglés.
translation.
Estas son impresiones directas de una bota militar sobre el papel floreado.
So he used an actual footprint or imprint of a boot here.
Hecho directamente con la bota de un hombre, una
Made
impresión
directly
directa.
with a man's boot.
Y por detrás hay retazos de uniformes militares.
And it's got bits and pieces of military uniforms here.
Okay. Este es el símbolo de Ediciones de Fortín, es un cuño que tengo para estos libros y siempre está en esta página el cuño, el número del ejemplar y la firma.
So this is a special stamp that he has, again, symbolizing the lighthouse is the symbol of El Fortín. Seguimos. Bolero sin fin.
Este es un libro muy especial para mí, es de un gran amigo,
This is a special book. This is a
gran músico, Lázaro Horta.
a friend of his, Lázaro Horta, who's a musician.
Vive en Miami hace más de 20 años.
He's been living in Miami for more than 20 years.
Ha ido constantemente a Matanzas a cantar y pasó una cosa muy curiosa. Este año a principio fue y como no llevaba una visa cultural no lo permitieron cantar en Matanzas.
Oh, wow. So he goes back, he's from Matanzas as well, Lázaro Horta, his friend, and he goes back all the time to visit, to be there. But this past year, he went to Matanzas and he didn't have a cultural visa, and they didn't let him sing in his hometown.
Este libro tiene 5 canciones de Lázaro Horta.
So this book has 5 songs.
La herradura viene por el último poema, por la última canción que se llama ¿Dónde están los caballos?
And this symbol here is for a poem, one of the last poems, which is about where are the horses.
Este dibujo que se desplaza, completamente todo iluminado a mano, ahí no hay color impreso ninguno.
So that lovely illustration, enséñalo otra vez. That lovely illustration is all hand done and hand painted.
Esta piedra recogida en el barrio de Pueblo Nuevo, el barrio donde nació y creció Lázaro Horta.
So there's a stone there from the neighborhood of Pueblo Nuevo, which is where Lázaro Horta is from.
Y todos estos detalles se aclaran siempre en cada libro de Fortín en el machón o colofón.
So all of these details about the book and how it was
Ahí se
made.
aclara todos esos detalles de la piedra, la cantidad de ejemplares, que la iluminación es completamente manual, en fin.
All the information, things like the use of the stone, the way the things were colored in, all of that information is at the end of the book. So the sort of the story of the book is included with the book.
Distintos papeles, distintos tipos de letras, el piano presente, que es el instrumento que lo acompaña en la música.
So different kinds of paper, different kinds of print images, and then the piano is there as a symbol, since that is Lázaro's instrument.
Muchos dibujos, la nota introductoria, un bolero sin fin, una ilustración o un dibujo para cada una de las canciones.
So an illustration for each song, and bolero sin fin means endless bolero, the bolero that doesn't end. Boleros are the beautiful love songs that come.
Cada una de las
from
canciones
Cuba.
tiene también la música manuscrita por el músico, por Lázaro Horta, y que después yo reproduje, pero está manuscrita y firmada por el músico.
He also included, these are manuscript copies of the actual musical notations that Lázaro
Así cada
made.
canción tiene un dibujo que está lleno de la atmósfera de cada canción, igual su música. Y así las 5 canciones, este es el marcador, marca libro.
So the 5, ¿te ayuda?
Sí, ábrelo.
The 5 songs, and then
Este es el piano con alas. ese piano con alas, está aquí.
The piano with wings.
¿Dónde están los caballos? La canción que cierra el libro con su dibujo.
The closing song is Where Are the Horses?
Y también la música y después, bueno, las informaciones que dan el machón, el índice y todo eso.
And all the information at the end, again, about the book and how it was made and the elements that were used.
Okay. Seguimos.
Seguimos.
¿Cuál?
5 poemas del mar.
5 poemas del mar y de la soledad. ¿Cómo pongo esto para que?
¿Te ayudo?
Ya. 5 poemas del mar y de la soledad es otro de los acercamientos que ha hecho Ediciones El Fortín a la obra de Ruth Behar y a la amistad que nos une en el arte, sobre todo. Es una amistad que tiene mucha entraña artística, mucha entraña literaria y plástica.
Gracias. So this book is a collaboration between us, again, part of our long friendship and interconnection of our lives and our artistic work as well.
También tiene una bolsa.
It also comes with its special bag.
El libro se llama Poemas del mar y de la soledad. Tiene esta imagen de la Virgen de Regla.
So it's called 5 Poems About the Sea and Solitude. It has an image of the Virgin of Regla.
Que sincretiza nuestras religiones con Yemayá, que es la dueña del mar, la orilla del mar.
Which the Virgin of Regla is syncretized with Yemaya, who's the deity of the ocean, of the sea. Very, very important in
Tiene
Cuba.
7 conchas. El 7 es el número de Yemayá. El 7.
And she has 7 seashells because this is her number. This is Yemaya's number.
Cualquier papel hermoso sirve para trabajar en esta editorial. Esto es unas servilletas que encontré en una parte, en un lugar del mundo. Y me parecieron perfectas. Se las pedí a la dueña. Fui a comer a una casa y le dije, ¿tienes más servilletas? Y me tengo una caja llena. Si me las da, me las llevo.
So all paper is beautiful for him to use in his books, and this particular one, this paper that he loves so much, he ate at somebody's house, and this woman had these beautiful napkins. And he said, do you have any more? And she said, yes, I have a whole box. And they ended up in this book.
Hay un lenguaje del papel en estos libros, ¿no? El papel es el elemento por antonomasia distintivo de un libro, pero hay en estos libros un elogio del papel, una manera de hablar a través de los papeles distintos, de los distintos papeles, las distintas texturas.
So his books have so much to do with the language of paper, with paper and all its different textures, and in many ways the books are a kind of praise for paper, right? That by definition books are made of paper, but here there's a kind of reflection and practice of the paper itself.
Papeles distintos, aquí hay 3 papeles distintos, están conversando entre los 3, un papel alba, un papel crepé, un papel blanco.
Different papers kind of interacting with each other, crepe paper and other kinds of paper coming together.
Como siempre, los dibujos están muy también aportando elementos de contenido a estos libros. Esta espada que tiene el nombre de Ruth Behar.
Also, of course, the images are very important in interacting with the text, and this is a sword that has my name on it. He also added my second last name, which, you know, in Latin America we use the patronym and the matronym and not so much here. So in Cuba I acquired my other last name.
Santa Bárbara. Chango. Este es un libro bilingüe también. Están los 5 poemas en su versión inglesa y en su versión en castellano.
So the 5 poems in English and Spanish.
Índice, machón. Y aquí entonces el número del ejemplar, algo que es también muy bonito. Estos libros no pasan de los 50 ejemplares. Están entre los 35, los 40 o los 50 ejemplares según sea el caso.
So each book is numbered. This happened to be number 12, and he makes these in small editions, sometimes 35, 50 at most. So these are small edition books.
Los judíos.
Los judíos.
Esta es una pequeña antología de poesía judía que realizó, es decir, el trabajo de antologación lo hizo Ruth Behar.
So this is a collection of poems by Jewish Cuban poets, something that had never been done before that I put together, and it's called, in English, it's I Am Loving You From My Roots, is the name of the collection.
Después de leerme la antología y un poco a partir del conocimiento que había tenido de la poesía escrita por judíos en el mundo, pues entonces aquí salió.
So after reading these poems and reading other poems by Jewish poets, Estevez himself wrote a poem
Un
called
poema que escribía a los poetas judíos.
sort of his response to these poems that he wrote called...
Estos libros también me están sirviendo ahora en el Fortín para implicarme más como escritor y como poeta dentro de la dinámica de los libros.
So this is helping him to really to involve himself in the dynamic of bookmaking and of writing as well.
Vamos a abrir el libro ahora, zafando aquí la rafia,
So this has some raffia fiber to open and close the book.
el yute, la rafia, papel de corcho, acerrín,
Different kinds of paper, cork, and other forms of paper.
cualquier material es bueno para lograr una imagen interesante en estos libros, una textura interesante.
So any kind of paper is good to create exciting texture in these books.
Aquí está esta menorá
Here, there's an image of a menorah
con distintos argumentos conceptuales que tienen que ver con el mundo judío.
with different concepts of Jewish thinking.
El tipo de letra es otra cosa que en estos libros también tiene. Yo creo que cada libro requiere de su propia letra, su propia tipografía.
So each book requires its own unique form of lettering or font, and so he also works on that very carefully.
Aquí está el prólogo.
The prologue.
Y un poco pensando en los judíos fundamentalistas, se me ocurrió la idea que el fondo de los textos fuera negro.
So he also decided to use a black foundation for this book, thinking of kind of, Orthodox Jewish people.
Ahí están los 4 poetas, son 4, ¿verdad?
Son 4.
4 poetas, están en español, están en inglés.
So 4 poets in Spanish and English are included in this book.
Aquí este dibujo que divide la parte española de la parte en español de la parte en inglés.
That illustration divides the book between English and Spanish.
Aquí el otro, aquí termina, aquí empieza. Y al final, bueno, el índice y todas las informaciones que llevan estos libros.
The index and all the information about the book and how it was made and the materials that were used to make the book.
Después ordenamos.
Sí.
Juan, ¿cuál sigue?
Vamos a seguir con Frida.
Frida. Aquí está mi poema Frida Kahlo.
So this is a poem that he wrote dedicated to Frida Kahlo,
Se llama Con duro polvo de óleo.
and it's called with tough oil paint or duro polvo de óleo.
Golden dust? No.
Is it golden dust?
Polvo de oro?
Polvo de óleo.
Oh, the
Oleo,
sorry,
yeah.
Yeah. Oil dust.
Oil, so tough oil paint or something like that.
Sobre el dibujo, toda la iluminación de esa cabeza fue hecha a mano, los 50 ejemplares, uno a uno.
So with this book, all 50 copies, these were all hand illustrated.
La realización del arete en forma de luna, un pincel, 2 pinceles o 3 pinceles, según sea el caso.
We were discussing this before with cataloging, that the books vary. Sometimes there's 1 paintbrush, sometimes 2, and sometimes 3. So they're all a little different from each other.
Título,
The title,
autor. El texto,
the text, which is a beautiful poem that he wrote and dedicated to Frida Kahlo.
texto largo. Aquí el machón con su sorpresa. Estos libros siempre están convocándonos a la sorpresa.
And then there's the surprise. It's like the machón, the information about the book.
Y creo que es una de las cosas que hace que interactuemos con el libro, es que lo podamos tocar, podamos desplegar los papeles que tiene, podamos abrir este tipo de informaciones también.
So one of the things that allows us to interact with the book is the way there are these folded parts of the book, and we can interact with it and surprise ourselves as we open and look through the book.
Y detrás el símbolo del fortín sobre los ojos de Frida Kahlo.
The symbol of El Fortín at the back over Frida Kahlo's eyes. Edith.
Edith. Esta es la tercera edición ya de este poema. Es la primera vez que tiene una edición de un libro completamente hecho a mano. La figura de Edith Piaf está aquí en la foto, pegada sobre una concha marina transparente, muy clarita. Es una concha, es bueno tocarla. Estos libros, yo sé que no los dejan tocar mucho, pero son muy buenos para tocar, porque hay distintas texturas. Y aquí está el yute, aquí la concha marina, aquí el algodón. Se me olvida que tú tienes.
See, so this is a book dedicated to Edith Piaf. Again, it's a poem that Estevez wrote, and it's the third edition of this poem. And it has a seashell there on the cover with her image over it. And he says that it's really nice to touch it, even though he knows that we're not encouraged to touch the books that much at the Library of Congress, but that it feels very nice to touch this cover.
Aquí está. Es como una carpeta que solo está agarrado por este cordel.
So this is kind of like almost like a portfolio just held together with this bit of wool or string in the center.
Este es un libro español-francés bilingüe.
This one is Spanish-French.
Para homenajear a Edith Piaf también con su idioma,
To honor
con
Edith
su lengua madre.
Piaf with her mother tongue.
Y entonces aquí está el poema en español.
There's the poem in Spanish
Y también en francés.
and in French.
Wow.
Así tenemos que doblarlo para poder seguir hay que doblarlo.
These books have some complicated engineering to them, as you see, getting them to fold properly.
Yo creo que es una manera distinta de mirar al libro y vengo haciendo esto hace más de 30 años ya.
It's another way to look at the book or think about books, and he's been doing this for over 30 years.
Me da gusto poder cada vez experimentar con algo distinto, darle a cada libro su carácter, darle a cada libro su discurso. Eso me da un reto, es un reto para mí como artista tratar de encontrar qué llevar a este libro, qué material, qué dibujo, qué letra.
So he really takes joy in being able to make these books, and that it's a wonderful artistic challenge, each book, to figure out what is this book going to need, what kind of paper design, lettering, and to reconstruct new books every time, construct new books every time.
Y entonces aquí al final, cuando uno parece que no va a haber nada más,
And here, when you think there's nothing more to discover, then you come and now look at this.
aquí están estos ángeles para Edith Piaf,
These are angels for Edith Piaf,
delante de la Torre Eiffel.
and in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Y al fondo, el faro del Fortín convertido en la Torre Eiffel convertida en el faro del
On the
Fortín.
back cover, the lighthouse of El Fortín transformed into the Eiffel Tower. Las damas cubanas.
Ya, un pico. Ujú. Las Damas Cubanas es la primera antología que hizo Ediciones del Fortín. En este caso hay 33 poetas cubanas.
So this is the first anthology that El Fortín produced of 33 Cuban women poets.
Comenzamos con Gertrudis Gómez de Avellaneda y terminamos con una mujer que ahora tiene 50 años, que es Damaris Calderón. Es decir, No quisimos meternos en el mundo de las nuevas y las novísimas, sino llegar a ese rango, nada más.
So it's a book that begins with Gertrudis Gómez de Avellaneda, a very, very important poet of the colonial period, and ends with a poet who's now 50 years old, Damaris Calderón, que ella vive en Chile, ¿no?
En Chile,
and she lives in Chile.
El juego con la máscara es a partir de un eslogan que tiene la antología que dice que la poesía es una máscara que el corazón se pone para convertir el dolor en belleza.
So the use of the mask is a very important symbol in this book. It comes from a line that he quotes at the very, very end of the book. ¿Podría ver la frase otra vez?
Sí.
That poetry,
Al final.
Poetry is a mask.
Espera,
Ahí está.
aquí.
The poetry is a mask that the heart wears in order to transform pain into beauty.
Ya. Entonces están estas máscaras cerámicas
So
completamente hechas especialmente para este libro también.
So these ceramic masks that were made specifically for this book.
Estos fondos son retazos de unas sobrecamas que me encontré en venta muy baratas en Matanza y las compramos y las recortamos, todas las ripiamos.
So the cover was made from some old bed covers that he found in Matanzas and cut up and transformed into this cover, this kind of plush-looking cover for the book.
Esta es la humedad que los pega, la humedad de Cuba.
That's Cuban humidity.
Están mejor aquí en las cajas que aquí las inventaron, horizontales. Aquí están perfectos. Yo de verdaderamente respeto mucho estas colecciones de Michigan, de Missouri, de la Universidad de Miami, la de la Biblioteca del Congreso, que es fabulosa. La conocí desde el evento en Missouri, que ella expuso el sistema que encontraron para almacenar estos libros. Son libros frágiles, son libros enemigos de la humedad. Disculpa, sorry. Sorry.
So he's discussing how these books are fragile and enemies of humidity, and Jeannie Drews at the conference that we were at a few years ago discussed all the challenges of conserving the books, and he's so glad that the books are being conserved in places like the Library of Congress and various universities, and that they're being maintained so beautifully, because they're very, very difficult to maintain. They're produced in Cuba, but difficult to maintain in Cuba with all the tropical humidity.
South California también tiene una buena colección. IFIU, Universidad de Miami, pero ella dio una lección en Missouri sobre cómo se almacenan estos libros que me parece aquí perfecto. Y uno siente una seguridad muy grande de saber que hay instituciones que los tienen porque son frágiles, son delicados, están hechos con materiales reciclados.
So he's so glad that the books are conserved so wonderfully here. He knows these are very fragile books. They're delicate books. They're made with a lot of recycled materials. They're very, very hard to conserve, and so he's so grateful and so glad, Jeannie, that you shared that information. Hopefully we'll have time afterwards to say a little bit more about that too.
Aquí empieza la Avellaneda.
So that's the first
por todas las
poem.
poetas, las 33.
The 33 poets.
Nancy Morejón,
is
Sofía
here.
Estévez, toda una gran cantidad de Lourdes González, muchas poetisas. Este es su marcalibro, que es una ramita solamente con un...
So that's a bookmark, just a little twig for this one. And
Aquí está entonces el índice.
there's the index, the
De
table of
papel.
contents, I guess we'd call it.
Las 33.
The 33 poets, and a lot of research went into this book, because I saw him in Matanzas when he was working on this book, and did a lot of research into the history of women's poetic writing in Cuba.
Y aquí el final del libro. Ya no nos queda.
Ya estamos, ya.
Estamos para los únicos.
Estamos para los únicos. Sí.
¿Cuándo empezamos?
Aquí vamos. Ponemos canción difícil y ya los dos únicos.
Falta canción difícil.
Sí.
¿Dónde está?
Aquí.
Este es un libro de una gran compositora cubana, Marta Valdés, una mujer del feeling.
So this is a very important book of the work of Marta Valdés, who's an amazing singer, composer, very important person in what was called the feeling movement, feeling without the G, in Spanish.
Es una mujer muy afiliada a la ciudad de Matanzas, aunque nació y vive en La Habana, es muy afiliada a la ciudad de Matanzas, le ha cantado mucho.
So she's a woman from Havana, but she has spent a lot of time in Matanzas and has performed frequently in Matanzas, so she's very close to the city.
Por eso esta bolsita tiene un poco de arena del río San Juan.
That's why this little bag has a little bit of sand from the San Juan River, which runs through Matanzas.
Y estas cosas se convierten como en resguardos para el propio libro, ¿no? De alguna manera es eso.
These things kind of become talismans for the,
Exacto,
for the book.
talismán, eso es. Hay una coincidencia en la fecha. Marta Valdés nació el mismo día que Frida Kahlo, el 6 de julio.
So it's interesting, Marta Valdés was born on the same day as Frida Kahlo, 6th of July.
Pero también la poeta cubana Carilda Oliver y Marta Valdés también nacieron el mismo día, el 6 de julio. Aquí está con Carilda y aquí está con Frida, nuestra Marta Valdés.
Also, the poet Carilda Oliver Labra was born on July 6th, same day, so she's there with each of the two poets.
Me gusta indagar en el autor, no solamente en su obra, sino en su vida. Por eso es que llevo estos detalles, porque me gusta indagar en la vida del autor.
He likes to explore the life of the author, not just the work of the author, so he tries to bring those things together.
Todas las informaciones de portada, portadilla. Una nota que le escribí a las canciones de Marta.
A note that he wrote to Marta about her songs. They're so beautiful. If you haven't heard her, look up the songs of Marta Valdés. They're really just very,
Es un libro
very
trilingüe, español, francés, inglés.
It's trilingual, Spanish, French, and English.
Primero están las 5 canciones en español,
There's 5 songs in the book.
después vienen en inglés, tiene cada sección tiene este separador en amarillo.
So each section has this image painted yellow.
Y al final entonces las canciones en francés, las mismas canciones en francés.
At the end, the songs in French.
Un dibujo largo.
And now a beautiful illustration.
Y llegamos aquí al final. Otra vez, machón, guardas y todo lo demás.
Bello. Entonces, ya pensando mi amiga. Y
Ya. Paralelo a este trabajo de los libros seriados, es decir, a estos libros que son originales múltiples, paralelo a este trabajo,
So parallel to this work that he does, which he considers to be multiple originals, so that's what we've been looking at now. Now he's going to share these one-of-a-kind books, these unique artist books.
también desde la década de los 80, desde finales de los 80 vengo realizando ejemplares únicos, es decir, un libro completamente artístico, con una sola copia, sin más.
So since the 80s, he started producing these, again, one-of-a-kind books that have no further copies.
Venía preparado para mostrarle 3 voluminosos, grandes libros únicos, pero nos jugó una mala pasada la aduana en Cuba y van a llegar esta noche, así que van a llegar después de la presentación.
So he shipped along with his bags 3 big boxes with spectacular new books that he produced specifically for this event, but unfortunately they were held back at customs in Havana and didn't make it on his flight, but they're arriving tonight, and we hope to show them on Saturday. Very beautiful, ambitious, gorgeous books. So we only have 2 of these one-of-a-kind books to show you today, but these are quite spectacular as well. And if you can come on Saturday, you'll see the brand new ones that he has just made that are really, really fantastic.
Sobre una caja de pinturas, ¿no? Una caja de materiales de trabajo.
So this book is made from a paint box. Le cuento que yo te la voy a
Sí,
okay.
claro.
So I'll just tell you the story briefly. So many years ago, I gave him this wooden box that was filled with paints and brushes as a gift. And then years later, He gave it back to me as this work of art. and it's called
Fue devuelto el regalo.
He returned it to me. Pensando en mi amiga Ruth Behar,
Es un
thinking
poema
about
del
my
libro La
friend
Vena Rota, un
Ruth
poema de
Behar.
este libro.
So it's a poem from a book, beautiful book that he wrote called La Vena Rota, The Broken Vein.
Entonces todos estos materiales están ilustrando un poco el poema que a su vez se basa en un poema de Dulce María que habla de cuando el hombre se levanta del abrigo en el muelle frío, ¿te acuerdas, verdad?
So this is a poem that Estevez wrote for me, but it references a poem by Dulce María Loinás about the traveler who's lifting up his collar, to be met by somebody at the port. So it references the lines from that poem.
A veces uno se pregunta dónde está el texto, porque si es un libro tiene que tener un
And
texto.
sometimes you ask yourself, well, where's the text? If this is a book, it's got to have the text somewhere.
Aquí en esta cajita
So in this little box,
está por acá. Este acordeón.
this is like an accordion. So
El texto.
there's the text.
Y creo que hay algo más. Creo que en el fondo, si mal no recuerdo, o no,
Sí, sí, sí. Ahí.
aquí hay una foto de Dulce María Loina, porque de alguna manera es la que nos unió en este poema, donde estamos ella y estoy yo, pero un poco a través de la obra de Dulce María también. Y por detrás entonces dice, habla de esta, es una foto original que hizo un fotógrafo de Matanza a Dulce María y me la regaló y yo la añadí a este libro. Sí. La quiero tanto que me desprendí de la foto y se la llevé.
So this is an original photo of Dulce María Loinás, the great Cuban poet who won the Cervantes Prize, and it was a real photo that he had gotten, that a Matanzas photographer had taken, and he likes me so much that he gave me this photo that he had.
Ya no me acordaba de eso.
No, he had forgotten about this. And so it's there. And in a way, Dulce María Loinás, like I said in my introductory remarks, was kind of like the bridge between us. She was the first poet that I learned about, Cuban poet that I learned about from him, and she really was very important to me and very important to Estevez, and became kind of the bridge, one of the bridges between us.
Bueno, entonces para terminar, vamos a hablar un poquito. Con este iba a empezar yo la presentación que iba a hacer, pero la vida le hace esas cosas a uno y es con el que voy a cerrar.
So, déjame see. So he was going to begin, if the other books had arrived with his bags, he was going to begin with this book and then end with the others, but instead we're going to end with this one.
Bueno, he hecho una larga colección de ejemplares únicos de libros arte basado en los versos sencillos de José Martí, que es un libro espléndido, realmente.
So he's made many unique, one-of-a-kind artist books based on the work of José Martí, particularly the simple verses, the versos sencillos.
Aquí está, por todas partes, ediciones de Fortín. Bellamar es Matanza, para mí Bellamar es Matanza. Yo le he cambiado el nombre a esa ciudad porque tiene un nombre horrendo y sanguinario. Entonces, he empezado una campaña que a lo mejor florece alguna vez.
So he has begun a campaign in the city of Matanzas because he doesn't like the name of his city. Matanzas literally means slaughter or killings. So it's a very bloody
¿Y lo que
name.
quiere decir en inglés Matanza?
Sí, no, ya dije. And so it's a name that he doesn't like, a very violent name. And so he's actually begun this campaign to change the name of the city to Bellamar, which means beautiful ocean. So he writes, as you saw, he writes Bellamar, that the books are made in Bellamar rather than Matanzas.
Es un nombre más suave.
A nicer, softer,
Yeah.
softer name.
Entonces, aquí adentro está esta caja de yute forrada de girasoles, que son los girasoles de Ochún.
So here's this beautiful, it's lined with burlap, and then at the top it has the sunflowers, and the sunflowers are the flowers for Ochun, another important deity in
Estos son
Cuba.
restos de pintura que van quedando en los platos y yo los aprovecho también, que parecen como unas gotas, son restos de pintura, de pigmento.
So he has leftover pigment and paint that he uses also for the box.
Este es el poema 1 de los versos sencillos, una selección del poema 1 de los versos sencillos.
This is poem number 1 of the simple verses, some fragments from it.
Aquí entonces empiezo con un poco de información. Aquí hay papeles artesanales, aquí hay unos papeles que le compré a un artista de papel en Michigan, es decir, el papel para mí es una obsesión siempre. Me gusta mucho experimentar y combinarlo.
So he says he's very, very obsessed with paper. This includes some paper that he acquired while he was at Michigan, some handmade papers.
Voy a guardar esto para poder seguir. Aquí está el texto del poema, español-inglés, gracias a un traductor maravilloso cubano que vive en Miami, que se llama Manuel Tellechea, y que tiene unas traducciones espléndidas. Todo el mundo habla muy bien, yo no sé inglés, pero todo el que lo sabe habla muy bien de las traducciones de Martí de Tellechea.
So this includes the poem in Spanish and then translations by Manuel Tellechea, who's a Cuban-American poet living in Miami, and he's able to translate Martí into rhymed English, which is extremely difficult to do.
Aquí hay 5 cuartetas del poema 1, 5 en el español y las mismas 5 en inglés.
So 5 stanzas from the poem in Spanish and then in English.
Otra parte la ilustración de este hombre ideal del que habla Martí en el primer poema, que se asombra ante la naturaleza.
So he made a drawing that represents the unique man that Martí refers to in the opening verses of the poem.
Y entonces aquí al fondo este pequeño Martí, José Martí,
Here's a small Martí.
poeta. Otra información sobre los lugares donde estamos en Matanza, donde se nos puede encontrar, está ahí también.
Some information about where the book was made in Matanzas, or in Bellamar, let's say.
Y voy a decir algo que he dicho muchas veces, pero bueno, aquí nunca lo he dicho. Es que hago muchas cosas en esta vida artística.
So he's going to say something that he has said many times, but he has never said it here, about his artistic life.
Me he dedicado por muchos años a la enseñanza del arte.
He spent many years teaching art.
Me dediqué por más de 35 años al mundo del diseño de escenografía y vestuario y luces en el teatro.
For more than 35 years, he was involved in theater set design and costume design and lighting design.
Pinto, dibujo, escribo poesía.
He paints, he draws, he writes poems.
Pero de todas las cosas que hago, lo que yo quiero hacer hasta el día que me muera son estos libros.
But of all the things that he does, what he wants to do until the day he dies is this.
Estos libros.
These
Gracias.
books. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's very hard to follow something so amazing like this. I'll be brief because I think we want to leave time for some questions from the audience. But anyway, I am just so humbled and thrilled to be in the presence of Estevez and Ruth, and it's such a pleasure. Being a librarian and a curator in the Hispanic division of the Library of Congress, the divisions in charge of collecting materials from Latin America, the Caribbean, and Spain and Portugal, we're just so thrilled because we're just huge fans of the Vigía, Ediciones Vigía, and I actually came to know the collection through Jeannie Drews, who she works in preservation, and they already mentioned her. She has been involved with this collection, did several trips to Cuba before having her job here at the library, and was extremely involved with bringing books to to the United States, and also I think she spent time there and even worked with them. But she did a great presentation of the books, and I remember how I was just like, in cloud nine. It was just like such an amazing discovery, and they just bring smiles to everyone who sees them, because there's nothing like them. They're just exquisite. All I want to say is that what's beautiful about these collections is just to see sort of what can happen in the library to make these collections available to the public. And again, I am here as a messenger because most of this work is done by other people in the library, like Jeannie in preservation, building these amazing boxes to try to preserve these as long as we can. They are made with all these kinds of materials, like food materials, tree bark, and things like that, which are not the best for posterity, I would say. So it's just amazing the work that preservation does. And in the display, I think you saw some of the boxes that are made to store the Vigía books, and it's really amazing because they actually build the boxes depending on the shape of the book, and it's amazing because there's so much time and love put into protecting them, and it's just been wonderful to see that. And so they are acid-free boxes that actually, Gina was explaining to me that they actually buffer, and they actually absorb some of the acid from the material, so it lasts longer. So it's really neat to and this is like a big operation here at the Library of Congress, and then Barbara Dash, who's the cataloger of this collection, which has also been fascinating to learn how someone spends all this time describing the material. When people search for these items in our catalog, each book has a catalog record, and each book has a very unique description. And Barbara does such an amazing job because she describes all the details that are in each edition, and that is really time-consuming work, and so we just love this collection here at the library. We wish we had more opportunities like this one to show it, because sometimes it's so painful that these books are hidden. But a day like today is just great to have them here. And I just want to say we have close to 200 editions at the library, and it's a really, as Estevez said, it's a beautiful collection, and I just wish we had more moments like these where we could bring them out, because it's just such a beauty. And this is one of many other collections that the Library of Congress has, that artist books. So there are many artist books. These are books that are, again, like these works of art. So they're more works of art, but than books. But they are just these incredible creations. And these are all housed, and the custodial division is the rare book division. So there are many sort of offices involved in sort of the operation. And yeah, so many have come through people like Jeannie bringing them. And now we have Luis Reta, who is our vendor, who buys material from Cuba for the Library of Congress. And so this is, we hope we can continue to amass this collection, and now collecting El Fortín, which is your new endeavor, and it's just so exciting to be able to promote your work and to be able to show it to the world. So with that, I'll close, and I think if any of you have any questions for the artists, I think we have a microphone circulating.
Thank you, Estevan. Gracias. Incredible. It's beautiful. I have around 3 questions. The glue, You know, is there a special glue? How will it stand for 20, 30 years? And then one for Gina, the archivist or the preservation person. Would she have to take photos of every single page because heaven forbid if that glue comes loose? And then my third or fourth question, and I think I sort of know the answer, is he answered it in his closing comment like this is his love. And this is going to sound like a jealous question, but wow, I would love to, does he interact like this with the people he loves? A letter to a friend, is that going to have this loving, artistic, like when my mother writes to me, she does similar things to this. But so those are the three questions.
So the glue or the adhesive,
the adhesive is of a variety, and by keeping materials in the closed boxes, number one, in the dark, and also under controlled environment, we control the humidity and the temperature. The cooler the temperature, the slower the chemical reaction. And so the adhesive, in fact, will work. Sorry. So the adhesive will be preserved for a period of time. One of the other things is when various people go down to Cuba, myself included, we take good adhesive down and share it. So I did that when I went down in the 90s and in the early 2000s to take adhesive down to enable them to be able to make more of the books. So I think that answers both of the questions, the first two. But that's that I leave.
Entonces las preguntas, bueno, primero era una pregunta más bien sobre el pegamento y el problema de la conservación. Pero después una pregunta sobre el amor que tú tienes por los libros y cómo tú muestras este amor con tu familia, un poco ambigua, un poco pregunta más espiritual. No sé si quieres decir algo más.
Exactamente.
So you want to know, we're trying to truly unpack the question. So you wanted to connect the love that he has for bookmaking with other kinds of love?
Does he interact with his family, friends, in the same way he does his art? It's apparent when you gave him the paint set, many years he gave it back as art. I guess it's kind of a figurative question. Does he interact 100% as the artist with everyone he interacts with? Like, he would have hundreds of people wanting to be his friend. They would be like, write me a letter, I love you, this is art. Just to touch or be near him is art.
Que si tú interactúas de esta forma con todos tus amigos y seres queridos, porque has hecho unos libros bellos, por ejemplo, conmigo, que esto no porque todo el mundo va a querer ser tu amigo.
La cosa está en la expresión de un artista tiene que salir del interior, ahí nada más está todo. Es decir, cuando tú coordinas lo que está aquí en tu energía con lo que está en tu cerebro y convocas al acto intelectual y al acto emocional, ahí ya todo se condensa, ¿no? ¿Me entiendes? Sí.
Sí. So the energy has to come from inside, and it's always kind of a combination of feelings and then intellectual concepts, and all of it kind of gets condensed into artistic expression.
Y esto que decía de la comunicación con los autores, a veces tiene que ser hasta un poco espiritista, porque hasta con los muertos tú logras crear a través de lo que han escrito, de lo que te han dicho, saber de ellos. Yo me he preguntado muchas veces, ¿le gustaría este libro a Frida Kahlo? ¿Le gustaría? ¿Le hubiera gustado? ¿Le gustará? Si está en alguna parte.
So it's a deep communication with the person that you're writing about, or the author of a text, and it might be Frida Kahlo, who's no longer alive, and he asks himself, would Frida like
this book. So there's kind of this very deep communication that goes on between himself as a maker of artist books and then the author of the work that he's writing about, and finding that kind of deep level of communication.
I want to thank all of you for this wonderful presentation. What a great tribute to the artist's inspiration, the love between friends, the extraordinary imagination that it takes to make these works of art. We're very, very lucky to have you, Rolando Estevez, with us today. And Ruth, what a marvelous interlocutor you are. Thank you very much. Catalina, we're so grateful for keeping these books for us and for future generations, for posterity. Thank you so much for coming. And take another peek at the books in the back. Thank you once again.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.